The lights in the command room were dim. Admiral Una Park stood with her hands behind her back, watching the large screen in front of her. The screen showed 12 alien faces, each one different from the other. Some had scales, some had fur, and some had skin that changed colors as they spoke. These were the leaders of the Galactic Council, the oldest and most powerful group in the known universe. For 3,000 years, the Council had ruled the stars. They decided which species could travel between worlds. They controlled trade. They made the laws that everyone followed. When humanity first left Earth and met other species, they were told one simple thing: join the Council or stay alone in the dark. Humanity had joined. They had followed the rules. They had been patient and careful for 40 years. Now the Council wanted more. "The decision is final," said the Council speaker. The speaker was a tall creature with pale blue skin and 4 eyes that never blinked. Her voice came through the translator as cold and flat. "Humanity has grown too fast. Your ships are too many. Your weapons are too strong. The Council has voted, and the vote is complete." Ambassador Taiho Kim stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 20 years talking to aliens, building friendships, making deals. He had believed that peace was possible. "Speaker," he said, keeping his voice calm, "we signed the Accord of Mutual Sovereignty. Every species that joins the Council keeps control of their own military. This is the law." "The law has changed," the speaker replied. "The Council has amended the Accord. Humanity is now classified as a potential threat to galactic stability." Una felt her hands tighten into fists behind her back. She said nothing. She had learned long ago that anger was a luxury she could not afford. The speaker continued reading the demands. Humanity would give up all warships. Human colonies would accept Council soldiers on their worlds. Humans could not travel beyond the Orion arm of the galaxy. Any human who broke these rules would be arrested and tried by Council courts. "You have 60 cycles to comply," the speaker finished. "If you do not comply, the Council will take action to ensure galactic peace." The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one in the room spoke. Ambassador Kim stood very still, his face pale. Commander Heeman Lee, a young officer with sharp eyes and a quick mind, looked at Admiral Park with a question in his expression. Una turned away from the screen. Her boots made no sound on the metal floor as she walked to the window. Outside, she could see the stars, bright and endless. Somewhere out there, human families lived on 17 different worlds. Human children played under alien suns. Human scientists studied the secrets of the universe. The Council wanted to take all of that away. "They think we are afraid," Una said quietly. "They think we will bend because we are young, because we have only been in space for 200 years while they have been here for thousands. What do we do?" Heeman asked. Una turned to face him. Her eyes were hard, but her voice was steady. "Get me a secure line to President Choi, and send a message to every human ship in the fleet. Tell them to return to home space immediately. All of them." Ambassador Kim shook his head slowly. "Una, if we recall the fleet, the Council will see it as a threat. They might attack. Let them see what they want to see," Una replied. "We are done trying to please them." She walked to her command chair and sat down. Around her, officers began working at their stations, sending messages, checking systems, preparing for whatever came next. Heeman brought her a tablet with the latest intelligence reports. The Council had been watching humanity for years. They had spies in human space. They had been counting human ships, studying human technology, waiting for the right moment to act. "They planned this," Heeman said. "They were never going to let us grow." "No," Una agreed. "They were not." She thought about her grandmother, who had been born on Earth before the first human ship left the solar system. Her grandmother had told her stories about a world divided by nations, by borders, by fear. Humanity had almost destroyed itself before it learned to work together. Now they faced a new kind of enemy. Not a nation, not a country, but an entire galaxy that wanted to keep them small and weak. The communication screen lit up again. This time, it showed the face of President Do-han Choi. He was a calm man with a kind face, but tonight, there was iron in his eyes. "I received the Council's demands," he said. "I assume you have thoughts, Admiral." "I do, sir," Yuna replied. "They expect us to fight or surrender. I think we should do neither." The president leaned forward slightly. "Explain." "We walk away," Yuna said. "We pull every human out of Council space. We end every trade deal, every partnership, every agreement. We close our borders and we say nothing. We let them wonder what we are doing." Ambassador Kim made a small sound of surprise. "That would cause economic chaos. For them and for us." "Yes," Yuna said. "But we can survive chaos. We have always been good at surviving. The Council has been comfortable for 3,000 years. They have forgotten what it means to struggle." President Choi was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Prepare the orders," he said. "We leave tomorrow." Yuna stood and saluted. The screen went dark once more. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine. They did not care about councils or demands or threats. They simply burned, patient and eternal. Humanity would do the same. President Do-han Choi stood at the center of the United Earth Assembly. The Great Hall was full. Representatives from every human colony, every station, every major city on Earth watched him with worried faces. Cameras carried his image to billions of people across 17 worlds. He had spent the whole night thinking about what to say. In the end, he decided to keep it simple. "The Galactic Council has demanded our surrender," he said. His voice was calm but strong. "They want our ships, our freedom, and our future. They believe we will give these things away because we are afraid." He paused and looked around the room. "They are wrong." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some people looked scared. Others looked angry. But everyone was listening. "We will not fight them," the president continued. "War would cost us too much, and it would prove them right about us. Instead, we will do something they never expected. We will leave." He explained the plan. Every human diplomat would come home. Every trade agreement would end. Every communication channel would close. Humanity would pull back behind its borders and say nothing. "They think they need us less than we need them," the president said. "Let us show them the truth." The assembly voted that same day. The decision was almost unanimous. Operation Quiet Sky began. Captain Yoonji Han commanded the cargo ship Dawn Star. For 5 years, she had carried goods between human and alien worlds. Medical supplies, machine parts, food, technology. She knew every trade route, every station, every port in Council space. Now she was making her last trip. Her ship was loaded with human citizens. Families, workers, scientists, teachers. Anyone who had been living in Council territory was coming home. The Dawn Star was one of hundreds of ships doing the same thing. Her navigator, Yun Woo Kang, sat at his station, watching the screens. He was a young man, barely 30, with a talent for finding the fastest routes through space. "Council patrol ship on sensors," he said. "They are watching us." Yoonji nodded. "Let them watch. We are not breaking any laws." Not yet. The Council patrol ship followed them for 3 hours. It did not try to stop them or speak to them. It just watched, like a predator that was not sure if it should attack. Finally, the Dawn Star crossed the border into human space. Behind them, the border beacons went dark, one by one. Hyunwoo let out a long breath. "That is it. We are the last ones." Unji looked at the dark beacons on her screen. For 40 years, those beacons had been a symbol of connection, of partnership, of hope. Now they were just dead metal floating in the void. They thought we would beg, she said quietly. They thought we would send ambassadors and make speeches and ask for mercy. Will this work? Hyunwoo asked. Can we really survive without them? We survived ice ages, Yoonji replied. We survived plagues and wars and disasters. We built ships that crossed the stars when we were still fighting each other over land and water. We will survive this. She turned the ship toward home. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to change. The Valoran Consortium was the first to feel the pain. They were a peaceful species, known for their art and music, but they had a problem. Their population was growing fast, and their medical technology was limited. For 20 years, they had bought medicine from human companies. Now, those companies were gone. Disease spread through Valoran worlds. Their birth rate dropped. Their leaders sent messages to the council, begging for help, but the council had no human medicine to give. The Morthic hegemony was next. They were a proud warrior species with many factory worlds. But their factories ran on fusion power, and the best fusion technology came from humanity. Without human parts and human engineers, the factories began to fail. 3 industrial worlds went dark within a year. Trade routes collapsed. Prices rose. Species that had never worried about food or energy suddenly found themselves struggling. The council held emergency meetings. The speaker made speeches about unity and patience. But behind closed doors, the leaders were afraid. We must force them to return, one council member said. Send the fleet. Make them open their borders? And then what? Another replied. We attack them, and they fight back. Half our ships are destroyed. The humans hate us forever. How does that help? They send envoys instead. Diplomats from a dozen species traveled to human space, carrying messages of friendship and offers of compromise. The humans sent them back without a word. On Earth, Admiral Una Park watched the reports come in. She sat in her office, reading about failing economies and angry populations across the galaxy. She did not smile. There was no joy in this. Commander Hyman Lee brought her a cup of tea. The council is meeting again tomorrow. Our sources say they are arguing with each other. Some want war. Some want to give us everything we ask for. Most do not know what to do. Good, Una said. Let them argue. Let them doubt. Every day they spend talking is a day we spend building. She looked out her window at the shipyard below. New ships were being constructed, faster and stronger than anything humanity had built before. Without council rules limiting their technology, human scientists were making discoveries every week. How long do we wait? Hyman asked. As long as it takes, Una replied. They wanted to make us small. Instead, they set us free. She picked up her tea and drank. Outside, the shipyard workers continued their job. Building the future one piece at a time, the galaxy had tried to silence humanity. Instead, it had awakened something that had been sleeping for a very long time. 3 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. 3 years of silence. 3 years of waiting. Dr. Soying Beak stood in her laboratory on Kepler Station, deep in human space. The station floated in orbit around a small moon, far from any alien eyes. This was where the real work happened. She held a small device in her hand, no bigger than a coin. Inside it was technology that would change everything. It works, she said to her assistant, a young man named Junho Shin. Instant communication across any distance. No relay stations. No delays. We can talk to Earth from the other side of the galaxy in real time. Junho stared at the device with wide eyes. The Council has been trying to build something like this for 1,000 years. The council follows rules, Soyin replied. They believe some things are impossible because they have always been impossible. We do not think that way. This was the secret that the aliens had never understood about humanity. Humans did not accept limits. They pushed and tested and broke through walls that other species thought were permanent. In 3 years of isolation, human science had advanced more than it had in the previous 50. Faster engines, better weapons, medical treatments that could extend human life by decades, construction machines that could build a space station in weeks. Instead of years, the council had wanted to keep humanity small. Instead, they had removed the chains that held humanity back. On the other side of known space, the Galactic Council was falling apart. Council Speaker Valorian sat in her private chamber, reading reports that made her feel sick. The Valoran Consortium had lost 10% of its population to disease. The Morthic hegemony had experienced riots on 6 different worlds. 3 smaller species had announced they were leaving the council entirely. Her intelligence minister, a careful creature named Torek, entered the room. He moved quietly, as he always did, his gray skin blending with the shadows. I have the latest assessment of human space, he said. Tell me, Valorian replied. Tarek activated a holographic display. It showed human territory, 17 colony worlds surrounded by a border of patrol stations and defense platforms. Their industrial output has tripled in 3 years, Tarek said. They have built over 200 new warships, each one more advanced than anything in our fleet. Their population is growing at twice the rate it was before the isolation. Valorian felt cold. How is this possible? They are one species. We are 12. They work differently than we do, Torek explained. When we face a problem, we form committees. We debate. We study. We wait for consensus. The humans just act. They try things, fail, learn, and try again. They do not wait for permission. Can we stop them? If we attack now, before they grow stronger. Torek shook his head slowly. 3 years ago, we could have won a war against humanity. Today, the battle would be difficult. In another 3 years, it will be impossible. Valorian turned away from the display. She walked to her window and looked out at the stars. For 3,000 years, the Council had ruled this galaxy. They had brought peace to species that had once fought endless wars. They had built civilization across 100,000 worlds. Now everything was changing, and she did not know how to stop it. There is something else, Tarek said. We have received reports from the border regions. Small species, ones that have always resented the Council, they are talking about the humans. What are they saying? That the humans were right to leave. That the Council has grown old and weak. That perhaps it is time for new leadership. Valorian closed her 4 eyes. The humans have not said a single word in 3 years. They have not threatened anyone or demanded anything. And somehow, they are destroying us without firing a single shot. On Earth, Admiral Una Park was also watching the stars. She stood on the balcony of her apartment, a cup of tea cooling in her hands. Commander Hyman Lee stood beside her, as he often did these days. The Council has called another emergency session, Hyman said. Our sources say they are considering a formal apology. It is not enough, Una replied. No, Hyman agreed. But it is a start. Una thought about the past 3 years. They have been hard years. The isolation had cost humanity too. Trade had suffered. Some colonies had struggled. People had lost jobs, lost businesses, lost friends on the other side of the border. But humans had endured. They had worked together, helped each other, built something new. The pain had made them stronger. When do we go back? Hyman asked. Una took a sip of her cold tea. When they are ready to treat us as equals. When they understand that we are not their children to be controlled. And if they never understand? Una smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then we continue alone. We find new stars, new worlds, new friends. The galaxy is large. The Council does not own all of it. She set down her cup and turned to go inside. There was work to do. There was always work to do. Behind her, the stars continued to burn. Patient. Eternal. Waiting. In her laboratory on Kepler Station, Dr. Soyenbeek began testing her next invention. On the border, human patrol ships watched the darkness in silence. On 17 worlds, human children grew up learning that they belonged to a species that never gave up. The silence continued, but it would not last forever. 5 years after the silence began, a human fleet appeared at the edge of Council space. The Council patrol ships saw them first. 50 vessels, moving in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with a strange new metal that sensors could not identify. The patrol ships sent urgent messages to their commanders. The commanders sent messages to the Council. Within hours, every species in the galaxy knew. The humans were back, but these were not the same humans who had left 5 years ago. Their ships were larger, faster, and more powerful. They moved with a confidence that made the alien observers nervous. Admiral Una Park stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn. She was older now. Her hair streaked with gray, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. Around her stood the new generation of human leaders. Director Ji-Hoon No ran human intelligence. He was a quiet man who knew secrets that would terrify the Council if they ever learned them. Trade Minister Min Ji-yoon had spent 5 years building a new human economy that did not need alien trade. And Lieutenant Seung-ho Ma, young and fierce, whose parents had died when Council peacekeepers attacked a human colony 20 years ago. "We are being scanned," reported the censor officer. "Let them scan," Una replied. "Let them see what we have become." The human fleet did not advance. It did not threaten. It simply waited at the border, patient and silent, until the Council agreed to meet. The meeting took place on a neutral station. The Grand Chamber was the same room where the Council had once given humanity its ultimatum. The same curved walls, the same floating platforms, the same 12 species watching from the shadows. But everything else had changed. 5 years ago, the humans had stood in the center of the room, surrounded by alien judges. Now they stood together in a tight formation, and the aliens were the ones who looked nervous. Council Speaker Valorian spoke first. Her voice was not as cold as it had been 5 years ago. There was something else in it now. Something that might have been fear. "The Council welcomes humanity back to diplomatic contact," she said carefully. "We hope that this meeting will begin a new era of cooperation and understanding." Admiral Una Park stepped forward. She did not smile. She did not bow. She simply spoke. "We are not here to rejoin your council. We are here to offer terms." A murmur ran through the alien observers. No species had ever spoken to the council this way. No species had ever dared. Trade Minister Min Ji-yoon activated a holographic display. It showed a simple document written in the common language of the galaxy. "These are our conditions," Minji said. "First, the Council will formally recognize human sovereignty over all territory we currently control, plus any territory we choose to claim in the future. Second, all restrictions on human expansion are ended permanently. Third, the threat assessment that started this conflict will be dissolved and all records of it destroyed. Fourth, any species that wishes to trade with humanity may do so directly, without Council approval or interference." "And in exchange?" Valorian asked. "In exchange, we will resume limited trade and diplomatic contact. We will share some of our medical and agricultural technology with species that need it. We will not hold the past against you." Valorian's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "These terms are very one-sided." "Yes," Una agreed. "They are. 5 years ago, You offered us terms that would have made us slaves. Now we offer you terms that make us equals. You should be grateful." One of the other council members, a creature with red scales and sharp teeth, leaned forward angrily. "You cannot threaten the council. We have 1,000 warships. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years." Lieutenant Seung-ho Ma laughed. It was a short, cold sound that echoed through the chamber. Everyone turned to look at him. "My parents died on Colony 7, he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with old pain. Council peacekeepers killed them during an inspection that got out of control. I was 8 years old. I remember hiding under the floor while my mother screamed. The chamber was silent. I spent my whole life wanting revenge," Seung-ho continued. "I dreamed about human ships burning council worlds. I wanted you to feel what I felt." He paused and looked around the room at the alien faces. "But that is not why we are here. We did not come back to punish you. We came back because the galaxy is better when species work together. We came back because isolation is not our nature. We came back because we are human, and humans build bridges instead of burning them." He took a step back and stood at attention beside Admiral Park. "But make no mistake," Yuna said, finishing his thought. "If you reject these terms, we will leave again. And this time, we will not come back. You will watch us grow stronger, year after year, while your worlds grow weaker. You will see other species join us instead of you. And eventually, the Galactic Council will become nothing but a memory." She let the words hang in the air for a moment. "The choice is yours." The council members looked at each other. They whispered in languages that the translators did not catch. They argued with their eyes and their hands and their movements. Finally, Speaker Valorian raised her hand for silence. "The council will vote." She announced that the vote took less than an hour. 11 species voted to accept the human terms. Only one voted against, the red-scaled creature who had spoken earlier. He left the chamber in anger, refusing to speak to anyone. When it was done, Valorian approached Admiral Park. For a long moment, the two leaders simply looked at each other. "I underestimated your species," Valorian said quietly, so that only Yuna could hear. "I thought you were children playing at civilization. I was wrong." Yuna nodded slowly. "We were all wrong about many things. Perhaps now we can learn to be right together." She extended her hand. After a moment of hesitation, Valorian took it. The silence was over. A new chapter was beginning. 10 years had passed since the ultimatum. 10 years since the Council had tried to cage humanity. 10 years since everything changed. Captain Seung-ho Ma stood on the observation deck of the flagship Horizon, watching the stars drift past. He was not the angry young lieutenant anymore. Time and experience had softened some of his edges, though the fire still burned somewhere deep inside. The Horizon was the finest ship humanity had ever built. Fast, powerful, and beautiful, and it made other species stop and stare. It carried a crew of 300 humans and 50 aliens who had chosen to serve alongside them. His first officer, a Valoran named Talus, approached him with a data tablet. Talus was young for his species, barely 100 years old, with silver skin and gentle eyes. His people had suffered greatly during the human isolation. Now they were some of humanity's closest friends. "Captain," Talus said, "we have received a distress signal from the outer colonies. A cargo ship has lost power near the asteroid field." "Set a course," Seung-ho replied. "Best speed." This was what the Horizon did now. It patrolled the border regions, helping anyone who needed help, keeping the peace without threats or weapons. It was, Seung-ho thought, the best possible use of a warship. On Earth, Dr. Soyen-beek walked through the halls of the Interspecies Medical Center. She was the director now, responsible for sharing human medical technology with any species that asked for it. "Hey, Young Morthic doctor hurried to catch up with her. His name was Krell, and he had come to Earth to learn about human healing techniques. "Dr. Beak," he said, slightly out of breath, "I do not understand something. Your people could charge enormous prices for this technology. You could make other species dependent on you, just as we once made you dependent on us. Why do you give it away for free?" Soin stopped walking and turned to face him. She was an old woman now, her hair white and her face lined with years, but her mind was as sharp as ever. "Because that is not who we want to be," she said simply. "We spent 5 years alone, building our strength, preparing for a future where we might have to fight the whole galaxy. But fighting was never our goal. We wanted to be treated as equals so that we could help build something better." She started walking again, and Krell followed. "The Council tried to keep us small because they were afraid of what we might become," Soin continued. "They were right to be afraid. Humans are dangerous when we feel threatened, but we are also generous when we feel safe. They chose fear, and so they saw our dangerous side. Now they have chosen partnership, and they are seeing our generous side." Krell thought about this for a long moment. "My grandfather was a council official," he said. "He voted for the ultimatum that started all of this. Before he died, he told me it was the worst mistake he ever made." "It was a mistake," Soin agreed. "But mistakes can be forgiven. That is another thing humans believe." In a small house on the coast of Korea, Admiral Una Park sat in her garden, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. She was retired now, her fighting days behind her. But she still had work to do. Beside her sat a young Velaran student, one of dozens who came to Earth each year to study at the Naval Academy. They wanted to learn how humans thought, how humans fought, how humans had taken a hopeless situation and turned it into a victory. "The Council had every advantage," the student said. "More ships, more worlds, more experience. How did you know you would win?" Una smiled. It was a real smile, warm and tired and full of memories. "I did not know," she admitted. "None of us knew. We simply refused to accept any other outcome. That is the human secret, if there is one. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We find a way or we make one." She picked up a small stone and turned it over in her fingers. "When I was young, my grandmother told me a story about a river and a rock. The river seems weak. It is just water, soft and gentle. The rock seems strong. It is hard and solid and heavy. But give the river enough time, and it will wear the rock away to nothing." She tossed the stone into the garden. The Council was the rock. They thought their strength would last forever. But humanity was the river. We just kept flowing, kept pushing, kept moving forward. And in the end, we wore them down. The student nodded slowly, understanding. Far away, on a space station at the edge of known space, a meeting was taking place. Representatives from 20 different species sat around a circular table. Some had been members of the old council. Others were newcomers, species that had never had a voice in galactic affairs. At the head of the table sat a human diplomat, a middle-aged woman named Hana Kwan. She had been born during the silence, raised on stories of human resilience and alien injustice. Now she was helping to build something new. "The proposal is simple," she said. "A new galactic assembly where every species has an equal vote. No more permanent members. No more special privileges. Just cooperation between equals." A Morthic representative leaned forward. "And if there is a disagreement? If species cannot agree? Then we talk until we find a solution," Hana replied. "And if we cannot find a solution, we agree to disagree and move forward anyway. The goal is not perfect unity. The goal is respectful partnership." The vote passed unanimously. On the observation deck of the Horizon, Captain Sunho Ma watched as his ship approached the disabled cargo vessel. Within an hour, His engineers had restored power, and the grateful crew was on their way home. Talus stood beside him, his silver face reflecting the starlight. "Do you ever regret it?" Talus asked. "The years of isolation? The pain your people suffered?" Sunho thought about his parents, dead so many years now. He thought about the child he had been, full of hate and grief. He thought about the man he had become, commander of a ship that helped instead of hurt. "No," he said finally. "We are who we are because of what we went through. The fire made us stronger. The darkness taught us to appreciate the light." He turned away from the window and headed for the bridge. "Come on," he said to Talus. "There is more work to do." The galaxy had tried to keep humanity small. Instead, it had made them great. And now, together with the allies they had once called enemies, they were building a future brighter than any species had ever imagined. The stars burned on, patient and eternal, watching over them all.